The early 2000s definitely brought a lot of style and exuberance throughout its media. There were very unique interpretations and mindsets in entertainment as the millennium changed. One of the biggest trends of the 90s was the popularity of extreme sports, which would eventually spill into gaming with titles like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and my personal favorite, Jet Set Radio. As the 2000s went on, games, movies, and TV shows began to use rollerblades and skateboarding in their design. This would be the case with Weekly Shonen Jump's newest title at the end of 2002, a manga called Air Gear from artist Ito Ogure, better known as Oh Great.
The story of Air Gear is fairly straightforward when it starts. A new fad by the name of Air Treks, a futuristic evolution of aggressive skating, has swept the nation's youth. And all over Japan, gangs are being formed that compete in various events using their new ATs. Itsuki Minami, better known as Iki, is a middle school boy who is the toughest street fighting punk on the east side of town and part of the East Side Guns. He lives with the Noyamano family, 4 adopted gorgeous sisters who took him in when he was a kid. But what Iki doesn't know is that the girls are part of one of the most famous AT gangs, Sleeping Forest. It does not take long before Iki finds out about the world of Air Treks and is propelled into a fate he had not foreseen, learning about his past and making a number of storm riding allies along the way.
Like most shonen stories, we see right from the start just how naturally talented Iki is with his ATs, and just how much potential he has to grow. After he's comfortable, Iki learns of the legendary regalia, which are air treks befitting only the greatest storm riders that can make it to the top of Trophium and surpass all other riders to unlock the greatest AT, the regalia of regalias, the Sky Regalia. The only way to do so, however, is by beating other teams in competitions called Parts Wars. So Iki decides to create his own gang, Kogarasumaru, enlisting his 2 childhood friends Kazu and Onigiri, as well as former foes Agito and Bucha. Their new goal is to now become the keepers of their respective roads to Trophium and wield the regalia so that they can fly freely with no restrictions. What makes Air Gear so interesting is a combination of elements. Aside from being a somewhat stereotypical story, it adds a lot of little things too. You might be able to spot some parody brands posted across the city, see some first-person rollerblade footage in the anime credits, or learn about Japanese pro wrestling and translation notes from the manga. It also gets fairly in-depth with the world building through some detailed explanations of physics and nature to flesh out the origins of air treks. Although it does suffer a bit by having too many characters, Oh Great at least knows how to rank characters in terms of importance. Main characters go through many trials and tribulations during the story, while one-off characters bring interesting character design to the table. Now, Nate's personal favorite character is definitely Kazu, who has a ton of growth and is a really supportive second hand, kind of like Nate.
Excuse me? Anyway, I love Kazu. He's not deplorable like Iki can be at times, and he truly strives to be just as good as his comrades just by trying and training so hard.
Wow, okay, that's so nice, Nate. I'm glad you found someone that you can really resonate with. See, my personal favorite character is definitely the parody version of Barack Obama, John Omaha, who shows up randomly to support Kogarasumaru and winds up doing a Freaky Friday switch with Kazu's girlfriend, Emily Adachi. How's that for American fan service? Air Gear really leans hard into its weirdness, but it's so well crafted, even the most outlandish things can somehow work easily. What makes it interesting is that its 2 biggest design elements are pretty much polar opposites. The story revolves around the sky, or the freedom to fly. The plot of Air Gear has a pretty clear goal in mind, and nothing is above that goal even towards the end of the story. It's weaved into the plot through the legend of the regalia and Trophium, and serves as a way to question human existence and desire. While it can be serious, Air Gear does offer a lot of comedic moments, especially since the main cast is basically a bunch of middle schoolers. That means you're going to see a lot of funny pranks, gags, and especially some compromising shots. Now, Oh Great as an artist is definitely known for having some lewd character designs, and it's pretty frequent in Air Gear. Considering that Weekly Shonen Magazine's core audience is teenage and early adult males, it's no surprise that this combo of grueling duels and pseudo-nudes was popular. It's basically the teenage brain on display. I mean, I could be talking from experience, but let's just move on.
Air Gear would use rollerblading as its premise and build itself into something truly special. It would become one of the more popular Shonen Magazine series, culminating in Oh Great, receiving the 2006 Kodansha Manga Award in the Shonen category. Riding a wave of momentum, Air Gear would be adapted into a 26-episode anime series produced by Toei, Marvelous, and Avex Entertainment. It follows the plot pretty well, although some minor detail, especially the weird jokes you'll see scribbled in panels, get lost in adaptation. That doesn't mean the fan service isn't rampant in the anime, though. About 5 minutes in, you get an uncensored bath scene. We censored here for obvious reasons. And it just keeps on going and going and going. There's also a lot of swearing, especially in the English Funimation dub, which the dub has also a really good cast considering when it came out, including the likes of Monica Rial, Lucy Christian, and Chris Patton. What makes the show feel weird is that it almost looks like an early 2000s shonen anime you'd see on Cartoon Network. Something slotted between Pokemon and Beyblade. Stylistically though, the anime was okay. It felt more character-driven, which is great because the characters are great, but you do miss out on a bit of the action-packed fights from the manga. However, what makes the anime stand out is its soundtrack. The music likes to pull a lot of inspiration from J-rock, pop, trip-hop, and techno, with heavy sampling throughout the tracks, and I absolutely adore it. There's 3 different composers working on it, one of them notably being Skank Funk, otherwise known as Hideki Naganuma, who worked on Jet Set Radio. I'm so glad to have watched Air Gear alongside reading the manga because of the soundtrack and the style it brings. I'm just happy I didn't miss out on that. The songs are so impactful and powerful in every scene that it becomes the most striking force in making the audience feel the emotion each scene is trying to convey. So, if you're interested in checking out Air Gear, where should you start? Well, anime, manga, depending on how far you want to go, it might be a combination of both. Toei's anime adaptation does a fairly good job of telling the story of Air Gear, if only part of it. After reading the manga and then re-experiencing key moments in the anime, I felt the animation wasn't as striking or detailed as the manga, which is definitely common. The other issue is that it covers only about a third of the story.
Technically, the 25th episode is the last of the series and ends in the middle of the 12th volume, with the 26th bonus episode, Special Trick, actually covering a previous fight between episodes 21 and 22. Past that, there's 3 other OVAs produced by Satellite. One of them covers a fairly big fight for Ikki, while the other 2 encompass Kogara Sumaru's biggest gang war. It's similar to Toei's adaptation, but I do find it nails a good balance between the action scenes and character moments. Plus, the animations are really exciting and vibrant. You'll have covered about 15 volumes worth of story with all the animation and OVAs, but you'll have to jump back and forth between the manga and the anime, as you can see in this diagram we've provided.
As for being able to access Air Gear, you won't have much trouble there. The entire original animation series is on Hulu, and the first 17 volumes are found on a few different book subscription services. Past that, you'll have to buy the manga volumes individually, get your hands on the complete DVD box set to watch the OVAs, or just somehow find the limited edition tankobon with the DVDs included. There's also a musical featuring some of the Japanese anime cast, so here's what that looks like.
While Air Gear has super stylish visuals, music, and design, it's definitely not without its flaws. Sometimes the fact that it's a shonen manga and not as close as being seinen means that it can be pretty ridiculous at times, especially given a lot of the fan service. When the story progresses, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's crazy. And while the goal changes, it's a pretty clear change. The progression to get there, however, is filled with a lot of one-off fights and characters that don't really service the story all too well. And sometimes explaining the different plot twists and how it all works can take up a lot of panels, if not pages of the manga.
And the anime just doesn't hit as well with the action of the manga. And sometimes I notice some weird animation hiccups. The lack of continuation is also jarring, especially since the adaptation covers maybe a third of the story, if that.
It's tough because the ending is really worth it and the fights are awesome, but it felt like the story could have been streamlined a bit more rather than becoming bloated.
Air Gear is an interesting concept. Take what's popular and add your own flair to it. The story of Ikki and his friends juxtaposed against the world of ATs and the objective of freedom is a pretty clear example of a solid shonen story, filled with personal struggle and growth. The various visual and design elements make the world seem exciting and vibrant. Where Air Gear goes off the rails, it seems as when it tries to do too much. From adding in too many unimportant characters to lacking in adaptations and stretching things out, May have been better to keep the quick pace of the early plot going. Nevertheless, it's very well crafted, and you're gonna enjoy the ride if you like shonen manga, jet set radio, and the style of the new millennium. Alright, so that was our episode on Air Gear. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
If you want to learn more about how to watch and read Air Gear, we did like a more detailed guide on the entire series on our website, thescent.net. There is a link in the description you can follow. If you like all this stuff, you should probably stick around, subscribe, notification bell, just hit it so you get all the videos to your email, to your notifications. And if you want even more content, you can subscribe to me, False Proof. You can subscribe to my boy, my shonen anime protagonist sounding boy, Nate, over on his stuff. But that's pretty much it from us. Thanks for tuning into The Scent. We'll see you later. Bye!
Bye!